15 years, blowing the doors off the competition, podcasting to planet Earth. PNRNetworks.com.
Now entering the PNR Networks arena, coming down the aisle from Revere, Massachusetts, weighing in at absolutely none of your business. It's the Mistress of Mayhem, the Queen of Quips. It's time for Ring Around the Rosie with your hostess, Kim Brown.
Hello, my loves, my turtle doves. This is Kim Brown, aka Platinum Rose Lady, welcoming you to Ring Around the Rosie on the 17th of July, 2020. I'm very sorry that I've been away, cats and kittens. I do feel bad about that, but I do have an excuse-ish, alibi. I don't know how you'd word it. We've been trying to do some renovating in our place, as in like just moving furniture. We're not actually like sawing or nailing things or doing things like that because I'm not allowed to touch stuff like that. Yeah, we don't want to give Kim like a saw. That's a bad idea, or a hammer or anything like that. That's a terrible idea. But we're trying to get one of our rooms coordinated a little better and stuff like that. Get some new furniture. So it's been taking a little longer than we would like because it is, it is New England, it is summer, so it is hot as balls. I hate the weather in the summertime. I hate it so much. I am not a summer person. I am not a spring summer person. I am a fall winter person. But I hope everybody is keeping cool. I hope everybody's keeping safe. Social distancing, wear your masks, call your grandma, all that stuff. Talking about some things that we're going to talk about on this show this week. There's all kinds of stuff going on, but I want to talk about real quick some things that have already happened. One of them way on earlier this month. And anything I say about this show, I cannot actually do justice to. On the 4th of July on one of the Roku channels that we watch, which is one of the independent wrestling channels, we watched a pay-per-view for GCW for their 4th of July Backyard Wrestling Spectacular. And I am actually not going to name names for this show because everybody's using aliases, and what you guys were doing was so fucking crazy. I don't want anybody to get in trouble with the police. So we're just because it was fucking insane. But this show was complete and utter lunacy, madness, insanity, and any other way you can say fucked up shit. And it was glorious. Oh my gosh, it made me realize how much I miss ECW, the old ECW, not WECW, and it was wonderful. Joey Janela, I cannot say thank you enough. Everybody involved, I cannot say thank you enough to everybody, also including Logan Stunt. Hi, Logan. But oh my gosh, this show was everything you could think of that could be used as a weapon, and everything that you couldn't think of to be used as a weapon was used in this show, including fireworks, including, those Roman candle things where you can, you're supposed to point them up at the sky, but of course you always get one drunk fuck when you're at a barbecue that decides they're going to be funny and try and shoot them at people. Yeah, that actually happened during this show with a lot of fucking fireworks, and it was insane. The show was just complete madness. I have never seen so many light tubes outside of a Japanese death match. And there were small swimming pools involved, and trampolines, and large swimming pools, and cars, and cherry pickers, and bobcats, and all kinds of other stuff. And it was just complete madness. And Joey, you are an evil genius. And can I have a job if you ever come up to Massachusetts, buddy, and you need a ring announcer or whatever, please. I work very cheap. Autographs, basically. Autographs and Uber fare. Also, I want to talk about what happened this week, and that was Fight for the Fallen, which was just on this week on TNT, which was really cool. This past July 15th, coming from Daly's Place, which is where everything's coming from right now for, all of the COVID stuff. And, they raised like a ton of money, which was donated to the Jacksonville Victim Assistance Advisory Council, which is a mouthful. But it was a great show, fantastic show, starting off with Cody defending his TNT championship, the AEW TNT championship, against Sonny Kiss, who is one of my favorite wrestlers on the planet right now. This match was crazy good. Just absolutely bananas and wonderful and just fantastic. Great work to both guys. Cody winds up winning, and he and Sonny embrace after the battle, being two warriors and being like, well fought and all that stuff like that. Just fantastic. And, I just loved this match. I thought it was just crazy and fantastic and awesome. Following that was Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, FTR, going against the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. This ended with FTR winning after Pentagon's mask was taken off. I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? That was completely insane. Not cool. That was exceedingly not cool. You don't do shit like that. Not cool at all. I was like, oh my gosh. The next match was one that I was looking forward to, simply because I'm a woman and I have needs, and don't judge me. And that was the team of the Jurassic Express, which is Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, bigger, and Marco Stunt. Mew. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm such a bitch. Marco, you're really super cute too. And I know you're legal, so that's fine. Going against the Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson. I was like, you know who wins this match? Me. I win. Because you've got 6 hot guys in the ring, and I get to see them all at the same time. I win! Unfortunately, I didn't feel that way by the end of the match because, you knew somebody was going to wind up not winning because, winner, loser, that's the way it works. So, it wound up with the Elite winning, with, Kenny pinning Marco. The problem was that after the match, Kenny then proceeded to beat the living shit out of Marco, and I was like, dude, what the fuck, dude? To the point where Matt and Nick had to yank Kenny off of Marco because I was like, is there they had this whole thing earlier in the evening where where FTR had disrespected Kenny by pouring beer on his head. I was like, beer's good for your hair, bro. There used to be a shampoo that had beer in it way back in the 70s. Ask your parents or your grandparents and shut up. But yes, fine, I'm old. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Truth. But I was really pissed off. I was like, yo, Kenny, what the fuck, dude? I was really like, okay, I'm not really happy with you right now, Kenny. Not happy at all. I would have been even less happy if he beat up Jungle Boy. That just would have been, okay, we have gone straight to Godzilla levels of angry. The next match was the Nightmare Sisters, Brandy Rhodes and Allie, the artist formerly known as the Bunny, who had Dustin Rhodes in their corner going against Kenzie Page and MJ Jenkins, with the Nightmare Sisters getting the win there. And the final match of the evening was a nasty affair between Brian Cage, who was out there with Taz, Brian Cage, the FTW World Champion, going against the AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley. And again, this was this was ugly. I mean, these guys, you really got the feeling they wanted to just, beat each other into a pulp. The whole thing ended when Mox basically said, I'm going to focus on Brian Cage's arm because his arm had surgery on it. He basically went out there and said he was going to rip the guy's arm up, tear his bicep up and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, you have to admire that kind of mix of honesty and outright sadism. I mean, you have to admire that. Well, I admire it. But then again, it's me, and I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell. Moxley had him in a submission hold, and Taz wound up throwing in the towel, literally. And so John keeps his belt. During the show, we also had Nyla Rose come out to the ring and announce who her manager was, and her manager was Vicky Guerrero, which I told my fella last week when we were watching the show. I was like, it's going to be Vicky Guerrero, and I was right. Fuck everybody. I'm a fucking psychic. No, I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm not. Of course, if I was a psychic, I'd be really super duper quiet about it, because if you're not, then they come in the middle of the night and take you away and put you in one of those hangars where the alien bodies are that the government swears up and down doesn't exist. And speaking of stuff like that, see what I did there? Conspiracy theories. That's what the show is going to be about today, because I was watching one of my favorite YouTube channels, Mental Floss. If you've never been over there, check them out because they're really super cool. And they did a piece this week on conspiracy theories. So I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to take that and I'm going to talk about that because that just seems like a fun topic. Fun. I should know. You know what? I'm going to preface that. Fun is kind of some of these are not fun. Some of these are they're upsetting. Some of them are infuriating. Some of them are disgusting. And some of them are just, what? Now, conspiracy theories themselves, now, as it is wont to happen, everybody seems to think that, a lot of people, I should say, seem to think that conspiracy theories are this new thing that's only been around for the past, 25 years or whatever, that nobody ever talked about, conspiracy theories before, blah, 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 bullshit. There's probably been conspiracies around as long as there have been people, and news and people being able to get news to each other. There's probably always been one guy in whatever little village, hamlet, town, whatever cave, whatever people had way back in the day that was like somebody, the government's hiding something from us, in whichever language was spoken at that time, in whichever part of the world. You've always got people who distrust the government or distrust anything the government says. Or make up their own outlandish theories about this, that, the other thing. Now, I mean, some theories are just, silly, dumb things that just make you go, okay, honey, that's fine. You just kind of pat people on the hand and go, okay, that's great. You keep believing that. Some theories are just insulting. You have people out there that say that, this tragedy didn't happen, that tragedy didn't happen, so on and so forth. And I'm like, I can't talk to you. I'm like, I'm not going to get in a fight with you because I refuse to get in a battle of wits with an unarmed person. And if you keep pushing me, you ever see what happens when you push if you poke a really mean dog with a really short leash with a really sharp stick, eventually the dog's going to break the leash and it's going to mess you up and, bark. That's me. But some theories, some conspiracy theories are actually dangerous. I mean, the things that can happen because of the conspiracy theories are dangerous. If people, get it into their heads that they shouldn't, do certain things because blah, 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 or because I saw on the internet blah, 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 and people decide to stop taking medicine that could help them or, don't have, their children vaccinated or things like that, and, people can get sick and things like that. And that's obviously not a good thing, especially because it's, other people are affected by your decision. I mean, if you want to be a dumbass, that's one thing. But when other people have to suffer because you're a dumbass, then I'm like, no, hold on, holding up my hand. Wait a minute. Check, please. I'm out. So, wrestling has had its share of conspiracy theories. And like I said, some of them are a little mild and some of them are just completely okay. You are living on a completely other planet. One of the conspiracy theories out there that I've heard this one several times. It's funny because I've heard it, but no one's actually said it to me, possibly because they know what would happen. The people there, and there's more than a few people, and they're usually on the internet. I mean, that's the one thing. Like I said, some people have always got this attitude that their generation invented stuff, and some people seem to think, well, there's more conspiracy theories because the internet. No, there's not more conspiracy theories. They just get spread faster, and you wind up with these echo chambers full of these numbnuts. They keep repeating the same crap over and over and over again. And apparently, if you sit enough people in the same room and have them all chanting, the sky is green, eventually they're all going to be like, oh yes, the sky is green and the sun is purple, or whatever stupid thing. One of the more distasteful ones that has come out of that sort of thinking is the idea that Roman Reigns was faking having leukemia. That this whole thing about Roman having leukemia and having beat it previously and then having it resurface was all some ploy by the WWE to get him sympathy, so when he came back, he would be super over, blah, 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 blah. Fuck you. For anybody to suggest something like this is beyond loathsome, sick, pathetic. I can't even imagine having that much hatred in your heart for someone that you may not like him as a wrestler. That's fine. But to be like that about a human being who says, hey, I have cancer, and you being like, I don't believe you? What the actual fucking fuck? Grow up. So that's one of the weirder ones. Another theory that I have heard this one, but I had kind of forgotten about it, and I was like, there's sometimes when you hear a theory and you just have to go, but there's documented proof that what you're saying is shit. That it's complete shit. And one of the theories out there is the theory that Vince McMahon, yes, that Vince McMahon, is an actor. And that, I guess that also goes out to the idea that all of the people we have seen on television over the years with the name McMahon, Linda McMahon, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, all the McMahons, they're all actors. That the real Vince McMahon doesn't appear on TV, that this is someone else. Wow. I mean, this, and the thing that cracks me up is I've seen photographs of Vince from like the 70s when, and pictures of Vince with Vince McMahon Sr., and you can obviously tell these people are father and son and have a genetic tie. And I'm like, there is no possible way that anybody with two working brain cells could actually look at this theory and go, yeah, wow, there could be totally something to that. I mean, seriously, what? I don't get it. I do not get it at all. Another theory that is more on the I mean, I don't buy into any of these theories. I just think they're all just stupid as fuck. But the one theory that I was kind of like, when you look at the end result, it doesn't prove the theory, but it's also kind of a, well, And that was the theory that happened once WCW, World Championship Wrestling, once WCW crashed and burned. And by crashed and burned, that's usually when something, bad happens. I actually suppose it would be better to explain what happened with WCW as when the planet Krypton exploded. I mean, that's the level of crash and burn we're talking about here. But there was no Superman to come out of that, unfortunately. After WCW died, a lot of whispers started floating through the wrestling world, because you know when wrestling fans get to talking, look out, that more than a few people started picking up this ball and running with it. The idea that Vince Russo, who had left the WWF at the time to go work for WCW, never really left the WWF. That he was still employed by the WWF and went to work for WCW as a mole and destroyed them from within. Well, considering the fact that he worked there and it died, there, you could kind of go, well, okay, that's interesting. But when you consider that he did go to work for, TNA, Impact, whatever it's calling itself this week, I'm just being facetious, you guys. You're still out there. I know you are. Keep chugging away. And they haven't gone under. They've come real close a few times. But I'm sorry. I understand where this theory came from, but I'm like, no. To be perfectly honest, I really don't think WCW would have needed Russo's, it was gonna die anyway, eventually. Do I think it would have died such a tragic death where we had stupid angle after lame angle after dumb angle after Vince Russo actually makes himself world champion? Are you kidding me? Kind of stuff. But I just can't buy that he was a mole, that this whole thing was some big, hand-rubbing Vince McMahon cackling in the background evil plan. I don't buy it. I do not buy it at all. Obviously one of the biggest things that ever happened in wrestling up until that point, is something that gets a lot of talk when it comes to conspiracies, the Montreal Screwjob. The Montreal Screwjob, which occurred in 1997, was one of those moments that I really kind of felt like for a second the wrestling world just kind of went, the brakes just kind of stopped. Everyone knew Bret Hart was going to be leaving the WWF and going to WCW. Bret was, Bret's whole story all this time has been that he was going to drop, he didn't want to drop the belt to Shawn. He didn't want to drop the belt to Shawn in Montreal in front of his hometown crowd. And considering the way that Canadian fans act when people win things, I'd hate to see what would have happened if he had actually lost the belt there. No offense to people in Canada, but you all do get passionate about stuff. So they were going to have him lose by disqualification. He was going to surrender the belt the next night on Raw and then just ride off into the sunset and head for Ted Turner land. That obviously didn't happen. He winds up getting caught in a sharpshooter. Vince McMahon says, ring the bell, and everybody in the world goes, what the fuck? Now, in the years since the Montreal Screwjob, you have this bunch of people out there who have come to the conclusion that the whole thing and all of the tension and all of the drama and all of the everything that occurred after it, the whole thing was a work. Shawn, Bret, Vince, everybody was in on it. I don't believe that, simply because I just, from the actions of people that night, from the vibe that night, it just did not feel that way to me. And I'm not exactly perfect when it comes to reading a room, but I'm pretty good at figuring out vibes and feeling vibes and such. And I don't think it was that fake. I don't think it was this big work that everybody was involved with, because somebody would have talked about it by now. That's just the way that people are. That's human nature. It's also the simple fact that I think some wrestling fans are so cynical that if a flying saucer, the size of Vermont, landed on the White House lawn and aliens came out and held a press conference and said, we have a cure for every known disease and we're here to help you because we've seen your planet struggling and we want to help you because we're nice, wrestling fans would say that's a work. And that's just, I think Jesus Christ could come back tomorrow and wrestling fans would say that was a work. And I'm saying that as a Catholic who is a wrestling fan. So no offense to anybody else out there who is Christian, but I'm very serious. Some other wrestling conspiracies are involving affairs of the heart, or just flat out affairs, or just things about that. And the weird thing is, 2 of them involve the same person. One, that person being Randy Savage. One conspiracy theory is that everybody who remembers WrestleMania 9, the WrestleMania from Las Vegas, where Hulk Hogan wound up winning the belt from in a match he wasn't in originally, don't ask, and had wrestled earlier in the evening with Brutus Beefcake as his tag team partner. Hogan had a really, really nasty black eye. I mean, really, really stupidly bad-looking shiner. And more than a few people have theorized that said black eye was caused by one Randy Macho Man Savage. Now, the reason for said, according to those who buy into this theory, is that Hogan and Savage were once again butting heads, and Savage was pissed off at Hogan because of the fact that Savage felt that Hogan was involved in the fact that Savage and his relationship with Elizabeth, their very real backstage relationship, had died. And, things had not worked out. And Savage blamed Hogan and Hogan's wife at the time, I believe, because Elizabeth stayed with them, and he felt that Hogan filled her head with stuff about Randy and that he was, she should leave him, blah, blah, blah. So she did, and Randy got pissed and popped Hogan in the eye. Now, nobody's been able to confirm or deny whether or not this happened, because who knows what Hogan's going to say next, and Randy Savage is no longer with us. So, although we do know that, Randy Savage did put out a rap track on his the name of the song "Be a Man," which was a battle rap kind of thing that he did, where he basically tore Hulk Hogan up one side and down the other in rap form. So if somebody had told me that Randy Savage was going to put out a rap song, I would have laughed in your face, and then I heard it, and trust me, I was not laughing. The other conspiracy about Randy involves why he never went back to the WWF after leaving for a while. Because, a lot of people have left the WWF, WWE, whatever, and said they were never coming back, blah, 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 and eventually they came back. If Bret Hart could come back to the WWE, anything's possible, right? But Randy Savage, after he left, never came back. And there's been a lot of speculation as to why. And one of the things that has been speculated is that there has been a rumor for a very long time that Randy Savage had engaged in a romantic relationship, or at least one erotic encounter, with one Stephanie McMahon. And that this had occurred when Stephanie was not of a legal age. Now, I can't speak on this one because I'm not going to, because I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. If Stephanie doesn't want to talk about it, I'm certainly not going to talk about it. As I mentioned, Randy's not here to confirm nor deny, and to be perfectly honest, a gentleman doesn't tell, but if you don't do that with an underage girl either, but I can't really say, but it's one of those theories out there that swirls around about why Randy Savage became persona non grata with the WWE. One of those things that, I don't know, maybe someday if Stephanie writes an autobiography, we'll find out one way or the other. One of the theories that actually, I remember when I started hearing about this and I was like, nope. This one I was completely like, no. And that theory involves the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior, for better or worse, whether or not you liked him as a wrestler or whether his personal life and personal views and personal stuff that he has on sound bites that will live forever, irregardless of all that, people will have to admit the guy really knew how to get a crowd going. Because because people would go crazy when he would come running out and shake the ropes and beat his chest and just act like a complete wild man. When Warrior left the WWF for a while and then came back, a bunch of people noticed that his body looked a little bit different. He didn't look as muscular as he had previously. So people went to the logical conclusion that Warrior had died and they replaced him with somebody else wearing the makeup. For those of you who have heard the whole Paul is dead thing about the Beatles, this is basically that. There were all these theories that the Warrior had died, so the WWF, not wanting to lose any money, brought in someone else, painted them up, told them to go out there and do everything like the Warrior did, and we'll just act like it's the same guy. One of the names that was brought up as being this other Warrior was Kerry Von Erich. Now, speaking as a person who spent a great deal of their teenage years looking at Kerry Von Erich's body in videos and stuff like that and thinking things that, you know what, never mind. Trust me, those were not the same people. Besides the fact that they just didn't sound alike, look alike, anything alike, other than the fact that they were both males with long hair, that was it. That was the two things they had in common. And they both, three things. They both wrestled in Texas. Ta-da. No, trust me, it was the same Warrior the first time around. It was the same Warrior the second time around. He had just changed his body style a little bit, but it was the same dude. It always was the same dude, except for the one time when they used a body double in the whole trapdoor escape thing in one of the WCW pay-per-views, but that doesn't count because it was supposed to be the Warrior, but the guy didn't wrestle as him anyway, and we are not going to talk about the whole Renegade debacle. Ugh. Okay, now I saved these last two for last because they're both, these both leave such a bad taste in my mouth, and I think a lot of people know one of them. When it comes to conspiracy theories in wrestling, there is no conspiracy theory that is more well-known or more distasteful than the theories about what really certain people, quote, quote, Dr. Evil quotes, really happened to Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their son Daniel back in June of 2007. I did a episode about this because Dark Side of the Ring did an amazing job of talking about it, and I actually did my own talk about my own feelings and the feelings of people around me and stuff like that, and you can go back and listen to that if you want. And I mentioned at the time that there were conspiracy theories out there that, these people who just absolutely would not believe that Chris could have done this terrible thing. Which I understand that. I do understand that. I don't want to believe Chris did this. I don't want to believe that Chris took the life of his wife and took the life of his child and then took his own life. But we have to believe it because he left suicide notes. He researched things that made it very obvious he was going to do something very bad. He laid groundwork by leaving voicemails. He was planning to do something terrible. And he did it. He did it. Chris Benoit, nobody else, not Kevin Sullivan, not people Kevin Sullivan hired, not anybody else who had some kind of a grudge against Chris and wanted to murder his family and drag his name through the mud. What happened in that house was on Chris Benoit's hands. It was on his hands, his heart, his soul, his conscience, and he took it to the grave with him. And unless somebody has a Ouija board and a lot of talent, that's the way that it's going to be forevermore, throughout eternity. So people, please, when it comes to the Benoit stuff, shut up. Now, I thought that was the most tasteless, revolting conspiracy out there when it came to wrestling, but trust wrestling fans to take it one step further. As I was researching doing this piece, I actually started looking around for other wrestling conspiracy theories, and boy, I'm never going to do that again. Because some of them were, just interesting. Some of them were flaky. Some of them were things I wasn't even going to bother with because I was like, well, this is so obviously disproved. But the fact that there are actually people out there who believe that Owen Hart's tragic death at the Over the Edge pay-per-view was something other than an accident just completely boggles my mind. That there are people out there who have actually used the words sacrifice and that have proposed these absolutely poisonous theories that Owen was murdered by the McMahon family, by Vince McMahon. That somehow Vince had something done to the harness that broke that night and sent Owen plummeting to his death in front of a horrified crowd. I am sorry, but you people need help. I mean, anybody who actually honestly thinks this and spews that stuff on the internet, I'd feel sorry for you if I wasn't so absolutely disgusted. I mean, crying out loud, that is just evil to suggest something like that. I mean, I'm sorry, it is. It's just, that is one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard. And I was like, please tell me this is just one person. Nope. There is more than a few people out there that actually subscribe to this. Now, I don't know if this is because they loved Owen so much or because they hate Vince McMahon so much, or that it's somehow gotten twisted up in their head that because Owen worked for Vince, that it was Vince's fault that Owen died, and somehow that translated in their heads to Vince had him killed. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that makes people walk away from wrestling. I mean, seriously, this was the one that I almost hesitated to put this on this podcast because I was like, nobody could believe this could be true. This is just nightmare fuel is what this is. So, do you guys have any other conspiracy theories out there that you've heard about wrestling that I didn't mention? If you have heard anything really outrageous, I'd love to know what it was. Have you heard that certain wrestlers or, a specific wrestler is a lizard person or something like that? Just let me know, platinumroselle@yahoo.com, and I will definitely bring it up on the air. If you have any questions, comments, queries, complaints, money, chocolate, anything like that you want to send my way, platinumroselle@yahoo.com. And that is going to wrap up my show for another week here on Ring Around the Rosie. If you'd like to follow me over on Twitter, you can do that. I'm platinumroselle@twitter.com. I also have a t-shirt, which is available on our store, which I hope you will go take a look at. And you can look at all of the other shows that are part of our little island of misfit toys on our website. You can see all the links and all the exciting stuff that my super smart, long-suffering husband TC puts up and puts out there so people can take a look at it. So that is going to wrap things up for another week here on Ring Around the Rosie. I will be back sometime soon. This is Kim Brown signing off for another week and reminding you to hug the ones you love the ones you hug, and take some time to stop. And if you can't smell the roses, at least look at them because they're pretty. Bye.
You have been listening to Ring Around the Rosie with Kim Brown, a production of PNR Networks. Keep in touch with all things about the show at http://ringaroundtherosie.net. Ring Around the Rosie intro performed by Eric Lyon. Ring Around the Rosie theme by Digital Juice. Join Kim for a new Ring Around the Rosie every Wednesday. Ring Around the Rosie is copyright 2018 PNR Networks, Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
15 years, blowing the doors off the competition, podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com.